YouTube, what's going on? So this is a very spontaneous, random video, and it could potentially drag on a little bit, but it's exclusively Greenlight, and I wanted to cover a lot of the stuff that they've been bringing out lately. But what you will notice with a lot of my collection, like this Skyline, for example, or the Blazer, or even the Ford Interceptor behind it, as well as some of these 510s and the Golf Volkswagen, Crown Vic, the Caprice. All of these cars are wheel swapped. So that's kind of I guess that's my thing lately, is I wheel swap stuff because, well, for example, this thing out of the package looks awful. Here's a different one. Same casting. This is the stance you get from Greenlight. The casting is pretty decent. The stance is horrible. It's like a lowrider. But when you lift it, put some proper wheels and tires on it, it really, in my opinion, brings it to life. So anyways, that's I don't do that very often. However, this will be my next lift job. To kind of go with the Blazer, although I hate that the top of this is translucent. Anyways, so let's take a look, because like I said, lots of new toolings, and if you go back, I know this one is, I think, a couple years old. This one's brand new. This one is fairly new, year and a half maybe. These are fairly new. All of these are within the last probably 3 or 4 years, with the exception of this and the Crown Vic. This is one of their earliest castings. But you can see just how much difference a set of wheels and tires will make. This is another new casting here. This one is fairly new. This one is brand new. And then there's a whole bunch more off of the layout that we'll look at. Like this one here, it's pretty new. It's a Nissan Titan. And you'll see as we look at these, most of these, with the exception of these, are civilian deco, because that's primarily what I collect. This is a great looking piece right here. And the Ford F-350, also a great looking piece. This is why I love collecting this stuff. This is a new tooling here. Thought about possibly lifting this one, but I don't think I'm going to. I really don't like altering these castings. I like to try to keep them as stock as possible. But when they look as bad as this one does out of the package, I have to. I don't mind the wheel swaps because I'm not drilling the car to do that. None of these are drilled. I just pull the wheels off, put on the wheels that I want. So you're still keeping the car intact. Here's another new tooling. This would be, in my opinion, their second best station wagon. I like this a lot better than the Vista, and a lot better than the old Chevy. Cars from the 50s, I don't think there are many collectors left that are into that kind of stuff anymore. It's not like it was 25 years ago when Johnny Lightning was getting going. There was a huge market for 57 Chevys and 32 Fords and all that stuff. I don't think anybody cares about that crap anymore. Because it's relative, you know. People want to collect stuff that's relatable to them. This is Greenlight's best station wagon casting, in my opinion. The Ford LTD. These are great wheels right here too. Great wheels. There's a lot of cool stuff with these wheels that you can do, as seen here. A funny thing about it is these wheels here on this Caprice came out of a Jeep wheel pack, but you can see how much more scale proportionate they are to the car. They sit proper inside the wheel well, as these Caprice, you know, this is how the stance was. The wheels were kind of tucked up underneath, and the wheels and tires that come on this car are massive. They're way too big, and I just think this makes it look a lot more accurate, and it gives it a better overall aesthetic. Beautiful car. This is quite possibly my favorite Greenlight release of all time. Right here. This particular release. I have a few of the police cars, which I also like, but I definitely prefer the civilian deco. And as a kid, we had B-bodies. That's all my parents would buy for a long time. Granted, we basically had this car, but we had the station wagon version of it. And Greenlight, I think, is coming out with that. So I look forward to that. Let's see. So these old civilian model boats are just cars that I really like to collect. There's an old Dodge Monaco that I wheel swapped, and I hate the fact on this car that these are M2 wheels. I will change that at some point. I had earlier tonight, I had these wheels and tires on the Monaco, and it looked really good. So at some point I'll get another set of these to put back on this. But I do like this car a lot. It comes in the package as an undercover police car, so you get black steelies, which don't look bad, but it's not much of a civilian look. So if you're going for that civilian deco, you almost have to wheel swap it. And this car, I think this is the only time they've ever released it as a civilian deco, although it is in the new Hobby Shop release as a civilian car. And it's basically that colorway. So I might grab that. Let's see, here's another one. The Ford Ranchero. I think Greenlight did a great job with this casting. All of these that I'm showing here, I think look good in one way or another. In some cases, like the Caprice, it took a wheel swap for it to get where I want it to be. This one here looks good straight up out of the package. I think the stance looks good. Wheels and tires look good. The color is awesome. And the detail is great. I just think Greenlight did an excellent job with this Ford Ranchero. Yeah, that's a sweet looking car. These wheels, I think they were out of the Japan Historics wheels accessory pack, the first one, because they've had 2 of those now. These wheels came out of the first one. These wheels came out of the second one. And a lot of these Datsuns get released with black wheels, which I'm not a fan of in this scale. I just think the scale is too small for black, but at the same time, I also think it's too small for chrome. And that's why when I do a lot of these wheel swaps, well, back to the Caprice, these wheels came out of that Jeep pack as chrome, so they basically looked just like this. And I just painted them silver because it just tones it down to where I feel like it should be. You know, like sometimes it looks okay. Like on this car, I think it looks okay because the car's not too fancy. There's not like a ton of chrome on it. Trucks like this, I think they look okay. But wherever you see chrome, I think silver would look better. Like this right here. These wheels, if they were chrome, I don't think would look good at all. And that's why when I go to paint the wheels, I paint them with the Tamiya TS30. Here's another awesome casting that just looks so killer, so aggressive. And these, look at those headlights. Those, where's my white one? I thought they were tampoed. They are tampoed. Maybe not. The only thing I don't like, now in this case I think it looks good because the truck is black. But I think I would prefer these wheels in silver. That's a killer looking car though. The tail lights are not lensed, but you do get a very nice looking Tampo. Here's same tooling. This one I did wheel swap. There's your headlight detail. And there's your tail light. These are the only two examples of this that I have. Here's an older Greenlight casting. And this is definitely a nice one. This one has lensed headlights and taillights. Really clean looking, but it's another one that they really just don't release it in a civilian deco very often. In fact, this one I think has only been released 4 times in civilian livery. Here's an underrated casting. We don't see it very often, but this Corvette casting is actually a really nice casting. It stacks up very nicely with the Auto World. I'm nervous about Greenlight getting the licensing for the 2020 Corvette. I think they will get it. I'm just nervous that they're going to screw it up because that car looks amazing. And so if Greenlight does get that licensing, I just hope they take their time on it. I hope they get the stance right. I hope they get the size of the wheels proportionate to the car. But yeah, this is a really cool little car. I like it. Doesn't come out very often, but they did recently. This one, I think, was within the last 2 years. Going back to the 70s civilian model land yachts. They did this Pontiac Le Mans. And I think at this time, I think this is the only civilian release of this car. I don't know how accurate this is as a replica because I'm not all that familiar with the car. But I think this car, this die-cast car, looks pretty good. It does have something you don't get with Greenlight very often. Transparent lens headlights. Translucent. Oh, those are tampoed. Oh, it's the Gran Torino that I'm thinking of that has lens taillights. Here's another great looking car. Mercury Cougar. Now this car, I think the casting looks great. This color is great. But this car, I do have slated for a wheel swap. The wheels and tires that are on it, in my opinion, are slightly too big. But the overall look of the car is really good, so it's not a very high priority for me. But the front is log jammed too, so that kind of bugs me. But I do like the car, and it does have a lens taillight insert. I think that's about it. Covered all of it. Here's one more. This is another old casting. These are actually getting really hard to find, and they are expensive when you find them. Dodge Charger. It's probably a lot easier to find the police cars of this. You can see there is a stance issue. It wouldn't be that hard to fix. The back wheels just need spacers to push them out a little bit, but the casting is actually really nice. There's the grille, lens headlights, side view mirrors, lensed tail lights. Really cool car. The silhouette looks good because it hides the stance issue. So Greenlight has a nice amount of late model sedans, like the Chevy Cruze, the Ford Fusion, the Ford Interceptor. This one here they've released as a civilian model a couple times. Very hard to find. Then they have 3 different models of the Dodge Charger, the late model Charger. They have the Explorer, the Durango. They have a whole bunch of trucks. So, yes, they do a lot of old muscle cars, but they also do a lot of modern stuff. And if you look at my collection, what we looked at tonight, when you factor in all the Cudas and the old Charger and the Mustangs, the old Mustangs, they have a whole bunch, the Roadrunners. You can see here, I'm not all that big on American muscle cars, because in the world of 1:64 scale diecast, those old muscle cars are a dime a dozen. But a lot of this stuff, like the Skylines and the Dots at 510s, a lot of this stuff is starting to get probably overproduced. So we may see that same problem at some point with these. But if that's ever the case with this era of cars, I'm okay with that, because these cars are basically from my era, with a few exceptions. I know these are older, 1970-ish, but anything from the late 70s till today. Oh, here's one we didn't look at. This one is very hard to find. It's actually very easy to find, but it's very hard to find it without bed tilt. I found this one on my second try. Stance on it's not great. It's not terrible, but it's not great. So I'm debating on lifting this. I don't know. I'm unsure. But pretty cool that they did a lightning. And they actually did a really good job on the Lightning. The wheels, the front and rear bumpers, really nice lensed headlights. The stance on it looks good. So I'm happy they did that. I'm looking forward to the black one that's on its way out. Alright, what else we got here? This Skyline looks so much better with these wheels. I'm telling you, wheel swaps, sometimes it's just as simple as swapping the wheels. I think that casting came out really nice, the 4-door 510. Oh, let me grab one more here. Or two more, for good measure. With that, we'll do three more. Okay, so this is another one. You don't see it very often, but a very cool casting nonetheless, because it has prototypical wheels with rubber tires, and it has lensed headlight taillight detail, but hasn't been released very many times, so they can be hard to find. And stuff like this that's hard to find, you know, the regular releases of these sometimes can go for as much as the Green Machine. And personally, I stopped collecting the Green Machines a couple years ago, just because of the type of collector I am. I don't need chase cars. Don't need them, don't want them. Okay, I brought this one out. This is another pretty cool one, although as much as I like this, there's another one I forgot. As much as I like this, I don't like the stance. I don't know. It just looks a little off to me. The casting looks good, but I'm really looking forward to the 3rd gen Bronco, which is coming out, I think, in a month or so. And I actually owned a 3rd gen, so I will definitely go after all of those. Here's another new tooling that utilizes a suspension lift, kind of like the Bronco, but Greenlight, I think, did a much better job designing it on this. This is another one that I wheel swapped. The wheels that come on this casting are the size of that spare, very thin, and they don't look bad, but I just thought this looked a lot better. So I spray painted these and threw them on this casting, and I think it looks really good. And then the last one, and I think you could make the argument that this is their most sought after casting. Maybe not, but I think you can make a valid argument. And that is the Fox body. It is a very nicely executed Fox body Mustang. And it has lensed headlight and taillight detail, prototypical GT wheels. It's got the correct badging, 5.0 on the front quarter panel. Side view mirrors, which are part of the casting, so they're not going to break off. They also do a notchback, which is also a nice casting, but I think this one looks better. And basically, there you have it. So, with all their issues, mostly their issues are with the conceptual design and the build, the construction. But you can see here, in the grand scheme of things, they still put out a pretty decent product, especially at the price point. The only thing is that with the number of quality issues that they have, you might have to purchase 2 or 3 of a particular casting, like I did with this F-150, to get one that doesn't have major flaws. Like almost all of these will have some type of flaws, even with Auto World. That tends to be the case. But usually it's not like a flaw to the point where it ruins the overall casting. Like when these trucks have that bed tilt, it ruins the entire look of the casting. So, but overall, I mean, I'd like to hear your guys' comments on what do you think from a general standpoint on this assortment of cars. My general opinion is pretty nice. If you're a collector like me that goes after accurate replicas, this is a decent brand to collect. There's a lot of these cars, like the Volkswagen and the F-150 Johnny Lightning does, but pales in comparison. But a lot of these cars, there's another one, no other brand does these. The Crown Vic, the Ranchero. So, for those reasons, I think it's a great brand to collect. And also, just the price point, you know. For $6, you won't find a better car unless you find Auto World, but not a lot of retailers selling Auto World. Anyways, feel free to leave your thoughts below, and hopefully you guys saw something here that you like. I would encourage you, if you did, to go out and buy it. Add it to your collection. I would also encourage you guys, if you like to photograph your cars or make videos, to make yourself a diorama. Alright, on that note, I'm going to end it. Thanks for watching. I'll holler at you guys at the next video.